Captain Ethan Cole had flown through storms that made senior pilots tremble, yet nothing frightened him more than silence. Silence greeted him every night when he returned to his apartment. No messages, no laughter, no warmth. Just the hum of the city outside and the weight of years spent in the sky but nowhere rooted on the ground. At 38, Ethan was respected, admired, and trusted with hundreds of lives every week. Passengers saw confidence. Crew saw discipline, the airline saw profit, but no one saw the loneliness he carried behind his calm eyes. This flight, New York to London, was supposed to be special, not because of the route but because Emily Carter was on board. Emily was everything people said was perfect. White, beautiful, ambitious, sharp-tongued, and polished, she wore confidence like perfume. They had met 2 years earlier and Ethan had fallen hard, too hard. She had promised him stability. Once you slow down your flying, we'll build a life. He believed her. He wanted to believe her. As Ethan walked into the cockpit, his voice steady during checks, his eyes instinctively scanned the cabin through the partially open door. He spotted Emily in business class, legs crossed, scrolling her phone, barely noticing him. Something inside him tightened. Meanwhile, in the aisle, Naomi Brooks adjusted a passenger's seatbelt. She was a senior flight attendant, calm, graceful, and composed. Being a black woman in aviation had taught her patience the hard way. She noticed everything. She noticed how Emily never smiled when Ethan passed. She noticed how Ethan's shoulders stiffened whenever Emily sighed in irritation. And she noticed how love was slowly dying without noise. Naomi respected Ethan deeply, not as a fantasy but as a human being. He treated crew with fairness, he listened. He defended them when passengers crossed lines, but Naomi never crossed boundaries, she never flirted, she never hoped. She had learned long ago, hope can hurt. As the aircraft lifted into the sky, Emily pressed the call button impatiently. Naomi approached. "Champagne," Emily said coldly, without eye contact. Naomi served it with professionalism. But as she turned away, Emily spoke again, low, sharp, careless. "You know I can't do this anymore." Naomi paused. "Do what, ma'am?" Emily smirked faintly. "Pretend this life excites me." "Dating a pilot sounds glamorous, but it's empty." Naomi felt a chill. "Captain Cole?" she asked carefully. Emily laughed softly. "Yes, him, I'm ending it today." Naomi's heart sank, not for herself, but for the man who didn't know his world was about to collapse mid-flight. As turbulence shook the plane gently, Naomi walked back toward the galley, her thoughts racing. She knew this kind of ending. Quick, cold, cruel, and Ethan was flying straight into it, the cabin lights dimmed into the calm blue of cruising altitude. Outside, the Atlantic was a black sheet stitched with moonlight, and inside, everything looked peaceful, too peaceful for what was coming. Naomi stood in the galley reviewing the service schedule, but her mind kept returning to Emily's words. "I'm ending it today." Naomi had heard heartbreak in many languages. She'd seen couples fight quietly behind designer sunglasses, watched husbands flirt with strangers while their wives slept, watched women cry silently in restroom mirrors. But this felt calculated. Emily didn't look nervous, she looked satisfied. A little later, Emily rose from her seat and walked toward the front, toward the cockpit door like she owned the aircraft. Naomi's instincts kicked in. "Ma'am," Naomi said, stepping into her path with a polite professional smile, "the cockpit is restricted during flight." Emily leaned closer and lowered her voice. "Tell him I'm coming. Or I'll shout his name out here." Naomi felt her jaw tighten. Emily's tone wasn't request, it was threat wrapped in luxury. Naomi keyed the interphone, steady and formal. "Captain, passenger from business class requests to speak urgently." A pause. Ethan's voice came back calm, trained, and unaware. "Understood, let her in for 1 minute." Emily slipped past Naomi with a faint, smug smile. Naomi watched the door close behind her, and for a second the cabin felt colder. Inside the cockpit, Ethan kept his hands light on the controls, glancing at instruments with the calm rhythm of a man who had mastered fear. He turned slightly when Emily entered. He expected warmth, or at least tension. He didn't expect the look in her eyes. Emily sat in the jump seat without being invited, crossing her legs again like the cockpit was a cafe. Ethan forced a small smile. "Is everything okay?" Emily exhaled like she was tired of pretending. "I'll be honest, this relationship, it's not what I want anymore." The words didn't hit at once. They arrived slowly like ice water spreading through Ethan's chest. He blinked. "What are you saying?" Emily tilted her head as if explaining to someone who didn't understand the obvious. "I'm saying I'm done, Ethan." Ethan's grip tightened on the yoke for half a second, then he loosened it, controlling himself. "Because of what? Distance? The schedule? We talked about this." Emily cut him off sharply. "You talked, I listened. And I got bored." Bored, a word that sounded harmless, but in that moment it was a knife. Ethan's voice lowered. "So why now? Why on this flight?" Emily's expression hardened. "Because London is where my real life starts. The person I'm with now, he's waiting for me." Ethan's heart thudded once heavy. "You're with someone else?" Emily's smile was small and cruel. "Don't make it dramatic. You're a good man, Ethan." "Just not enough?" Ethan stared straight ahead, the sky endless, the cockpit filled with the quiet hum of engines. He felt like he was floating outside his own body. Not enough. Emily leaned forward, lowering her voice into something sweeter, as if sugar could soften poison. "You're stable, predictable, but I want more. I want power, money, a man who's actually present." Ethan swallowed. His throat was tight. "I am present," he said, voice controlled. "I'm here, I've been here, I've tried," Emily scoffed. "You're married to the sky." That sentence landed like a verdict. Ethan finally turned his face toward her. His eyes weren't angry, just wounded. "And what was I to you? A phase?" Emily stood, smoothing her blazer. "You were a beautiful chapter, but I'm closing the book." Then she reached into her bag, pulled out a small box and placed it on the console between Ethan and the instruments. A gift from last year, a watch he had saved for, something she once called a symbol of us. Now it looked like trash. Emily walked to the door, then paused as if remembering something important. "Oh, and please don't call me after landing." "I'm blocking your number." Ethan's lips parted, but no sound came. The door opened, and she left the cockpit like she was leaving a hotel room without a backward glance. Outside in the galley, Naomi saw Emily's posture, upright, victorious, untouched by guilt. Naomi didn't ask questions. She watched Emily walk back to her seat, put on headphones, and sip champagne like she hadn't just crushed a man's soul at 35,000 feet. Naomi's stomach turned. She wanted to go to Ethan, to say something, but what could she say? She wasn't his friend, not really. And in aviation, emotions were dangerous, especially between crew and captain. Still, Naomi felt something stronger than fear, respect. Because she knew what Ethan would do now. He would finish the flight perfectly, even while breaking inside. When Naomi finally entered the cockpit to deliver coffee, she found Ethan staring at the horizon with a face made of stone. His co-pilot spoke quietly, pretending not to notice the tension. Naomi placed the cup down gently. Ethan didn't look at her, but his voice came out low and hollow. "Thank you." Naomi hesitated a second, then said softly, just one sentence. "Some storms don't show on the radar, Captain." Ethan's jaw twitched. He swallowed hard, eyes still fixed forward. For the first time in his life, the sky felt heavy. And the flight wasn't even over yet. The aircraft descended through thick gray clouds, London lights blinking faintly beneath layers of rain. From the outside, it was a normal landing, smooth, controlled, professional. Inside the cockpit, Captain Ethan Cole was flying on instinct alone. His hands moved perfectly. His voice stayed calm. His training carried him. But inside his chest, something had fractured beyond repair. Not enough, just a chapter, predictable. The words repeated like turbulence in his head. "Approach stable," the co-pilot said. "Cleared to land," Ethan replied, voice steady enough to fool anyone who didn't know him. The wheels touched the runway with textbook precision. Passengers applauded softly, unaware that the man who brought them safely across an ocean had just lost everything he thought he was flying toward. The seatbelt sign clicked off. The cabin erupted into movement, bags opening, people standing, voices rising. Emily was already on her feet before the aircraft fully stopped. She looked relieved, free. As Naomi began standard disembarkation procedures, she noticed Emily pulling her luggage down aggressively, elbowing past another passenger. "Excuse me," the passenger protested. Emily didn't turn. "I have somewhere important to be." Naomi watched her approach the exit door. Airline staff smiled politely, wishing passengers a pleasant stay. Emily stopped for just a moment at the threshold. She turned not toward the cockpit but toward Naomi. Their eyes met. Emily's expression wasn't guilt, it wasn't shame, it was superiority. "Tell him thanks for the ride," she said casually, then she stepped out of the plane. Gone. Just like that, no closure, no apology, no humanity. Naomi's fingers curled slightly at her side. She took a slow breath, grounding herself. She still had a job to do. When the last passenger left and the cabin finally fell silent, the aircraft felt hollow like a body without a soul. Naomi finished her check slowly. The other crew chatted quietly, planning rest, dinner, sleep. Naomi didn't join them. Her feet carried her toward the cockpit. She knocked gently, no answer. She knocked again, still nothing. Concern prickled her spine. She opened the door carefully. Captain Ethan was still in his seat, uniform perfect, posture upright. But his head was bowed. For a moment, Naomi thought he was just resting. Then she saw his hands. They were shaking, not violently, subtly, like a man holding himself together with sheer will. "Captain," she said softly, no response. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "Ethan," she said, breaking protocol for the first time. That's when he broke. His breath hitched once, twice, and then the dam collapsed. He covered his face with his hands, shoulders trembling as years of discipline gave way to raw, helpless grief. "I did everything right," he whispered, voice cracked beyond recognition. "I gave her time, loyalty, patience. I waited. I believed." Naomi didn't interrupt. She didn't say it will be okay because she knew that lie. She simply stood there, present. She didn't even look back, Ethan continued, tears slipping down his cheeks. "Like I was nothing. Nothing." Naomi moved closer, careful, respectful. She placed a folded towel on the console, not touching him yet. "You're not nothing," she said quietly. "You're just with the wrong person." Ethan laughed bitterly through tears. "You don't leave someone like that if they matter." Naomi's voice stayed steady, but her eyes burned. "No," she said, "you leave someone like that when you don't know how to value love." Ethan finally looked at her, really looked, not as crew. Not as hierarchy, as a human being. "And you," he asked hoarsely, "why are you here?" Naomi met his gaze without fear. "Because no one should be alone after something like that." Silence filled the cockpit again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was shared. Ethan took a long, shuddering breath. "I'm supposed to be strong," he said. "I fly people through storms, and yet I couldn't save my own life from crashing." Naomi shook her head gently. "You landed the plane," she said. "That matters, even if your heart didn't land safely yet." Her words didn't fix him, but they anchored him. For the first time since Emily walked away, Ethan felt something other than pain. He felt seen. Later that night, airline management called. Emily had complained. She claimed the crew was unprofessional. She hinted at discrimination. She suggested Ethan was emotionally unstable. The words burned. A senior manager pulled Naomi aside. "Did you say anything inappropriate to the passenger?" Naomi straightened her back. "No," she said firmly. "I did my job." "And the captain?" Naomi hesitated just long enough to choose truth over fear. "The captain did his job too," she said. "Perfectly." The manager studied her, then nodded slowly. "You can go." Naomi exhaled only when she was alone. She had taken a risk, but some things were worth it. That night, Ethan sat alone in his hotel room, staring at his phone. Emily's contact was gone, so were the lies. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Some people leave when the journey ends. Others stay when the pain begins. No signature. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time since the betrayal, his chest didn't ache as sharply, because somewhere between the sky and the ground, someone had stayed. The next flight left London before sunrise. The airport was quiet, soaked in rain and fatigue. Crew members moved like shadows through terminals, dragging small suitcases, sipping bitter coffee, hiding personal pain behind professional smiles. Captain Ethan Cole walked toward the aircraft with measured steps. His eyes were tired, but his back was straight. He hadn't slept much. Memories of the cockpit, Emily's words, and Naomi's quiet strength replayed in his mind again and again. Naomi joined the crew briefing moments later. Their eyes met briefly. No awkwardness, no expectations, just understanding. The flight was full. Families, business travelers, tourists, human stories packed into one metal tube. Everything was routine until seat 24C, a middle-aged man with an expensive watch and cheap manners, snapped his fingers at Naomi as she passed. "Hey, you," he said loudly. "I asked for water 5 minutes ago." Naomi stopped, turned calmly. "I'll bring it right away, sir," the man smirked. "Of course you will, that's what you people do, right?" The words hung in the air, sharp, poisonous. Nearby passengers shifted uncomfortably. Naomi felt the familiar sting. She had heard worse. She inhaled, choosing professionalism over reaction. "Sir," she said evenly, "I'm here to ensure your comfort. Please speak respectfully." The man laughed. "Respect? You should be grateful to be here." That's when Ethan's voice cut through the cabin, clear, controlled, unmistakable. "Sir." Every head turned. Ethan had stepped out of the cockpit. His uniform was crisp, his expression unreadable. He stood beside Naomi, not in front of her, not behind her, beside her. "I'm Captain Cole," he said calmly. "I was informed of inappropriate language," the man scoffed. "It was a joke." Ethan's eyes didn't blink. "Jokes require consent," he said. "Disrespect does not." A ripple moved through the cabin. The man straightened. "You can't talk to me like that." Ethan's voice dropped, steady as steel. "I can and I will." Silence. "If you continue," Ethan said, "you will be reseated. If it happens again, you will be escorted off this aircraft. This crew member represents this airline and I represent this aircraft." The man looked around, realizing the cabin wasn't on his side. He muttered something under his breath. Ethan didn't move until Naomi nodded slightly, assuring him she was fine. Only then did he return to the cockpit. Naomi stood frozen for a moment. Her throat tightened, not with fear, with gratitude. No captain had ever done that for her. Later in the galley, Naomi leaned against the counter, hands trembling slightly. Ethan approached quietly. "I hope I didn't overstep," he said. Naomi shook her head. "No," she said softly. "You did exactly what needed to be done." She paused, then added, "Thank you." Ethan met her eyes. "No one deserves to be treated like that," he replied. "Ever." Something shifted between them, not romance, not yet. Respect deepened. Mid-flight, Ethan received an email from Emily. Subject line, "Can we talk?" He stared at the screen for a long moment. She wrote about missing him, about confusion, about maybe I was harsh. She didn't apologize, she asked. Ethan closed the email without replying. For the first time, her words had no power. Hours later, turbulence hit hard. The aircraft shook violently. Passengers gasped. Naomi moved through the cabin, calm voice steady, grounding fear with presence. In the cockpit, Ethan's focus sharpened. He trusted his crew, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel alone up there. The plane stabilized. Applause followed. When Naomi passed the cockpit later, Ethan caught her eye. She smiled, small, genuine. That night during crew rest, they sat across from each other in silence. Not uncomfortable, comfortable. "You know," Ethan said quietly, "I spent years thinking strength meant never needing anyone." Naomi nodded. "And I spent years thinking staying quiet was survival." He looked at her. "Maybe we were both wrong." Maybe. Elsewhere in London, Emily stared at her phone, no reply. For the first time, doubt crept in. She remembered how Ethan used to wait for her, protect her, listen, and now he was gone. Back on the aircraft, Naomi stood by the window, watching clouds roll past. Ethan joined her. Neither spoke for a long moment. Then Naomi said softly, "Some people confuse silence with weakness." Ethan nodded. "And some people mistake loyalty for boredom." Their eyes met, this time longer. Something real was forming, not rushed, not desperate. Built on pain, yes, but also on truth. The final flight of the rotation was quieter than the rest, not because the cabin was empty, but because something inside Captain Ethan Cole had finally settled. He sat in the cockpit long before boarding, staring at the runway lights stretching into the darkness. Once those lights had felt like escape, now they felt like a path, one he was finally choosing for himself. His phone vibrated. Emily Carter. He didn't open it. Minutes later, another message arrived. "I'm at the airport, please, just 5 minutes." Ethan closed his eyes. He thought of the cockpit door closing behind her, of the watch left behind, of the way she walked away without a glance. And then he thought of Naomi, the way she had stood steady while being insulted, the way she had stayed when he broke, the way she never demanded space in his life, only offered presence. He stood up. "Captain," the co-pilot asked. "I'll be back," Ethan replied calmly. Emily stood near the glass wall overlooking the runway, designer coat tight around her, eyes searching every passing uniform. When she saw Ethan, relief flashed across her face. "Ethan," she said quickly, "thank you for coming." He stopped a few steps away. "I didn't come to reconcile," he said evenly. Her smile faltered. "I made a mistake," she said. "I was scared, I wanted more, but London, it wasn't what I thought. He wasn't who he pretended to be." Ethan listened, not because he hoped, because he had closure to give to himself. "You didn't leave because you were scared," he said quietly. "You left because you believed something better was waiting." Emily's voice cracked. "Can't we try again?" Ethan shook his head, gentle, final. "You didn't break my heart," he said. "You showed me where I was wasting it." Her eyes filled. "I loved you," Ethan met her gaze. "You loved what I gave you," he replied. "Not who I was." Silence stretched between them. Then Emily whispered, "Is there someone else?" Ethan didn't answer. He turned and walked away, and he didn't look back. Back on the aircraft, Naomi was preparing the cabin. She sensed him before she saw him. "You okay?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. "I am now." During the flight, nothing dramatic happened. No storms, no confrontations, just steady air. When the plane cruised smoothly at 35,000 feet, Ethan made an announcement, one he hadn't planned. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice calm but warm, "thank you for flying with us tonight. Sometimes journeys remind us not just where we're going, but who matters along the way." Naomi paused mid-aisle. Passengers smiled, unaware of the truth behind the words. After landing, when the cabin was empty and the night was quiet, Ethan and Naomi stood near the open aircraft door. The cool air brushed their faces. "I never thanked you properly," Ethan said, "for staying." Naomi smiled gently. "I didn't stay for thanks," she said. "I stayed because it was right." Ethan hesitated. Then carefully, respectfully, he asked, "Would you like to get coffee sometime? Not as captain and crew, just 2 people." Naomi studied his face, no desperation, no rebound, only sincerity. "Yes," she said, not rushed. "Not dramatic, just real." Weeks later, they sat in a small cafe near the airport. No uniforms, no hierarchy, just laughter, stories, shared silences. They didn't rush love, they let it grow. Months later, on another long flight, Ethan glanced out at the sky. Naomi sat nearby reading. He realized something simple and profound. Emily had loved the idea of him. Naomi loved the man he was, even when he was broken.